Good afternoon, guys. Well, this is the big one, mandatory or uncontrollable spending. Not only is it huge now, but it's growing annually, and there are really no restraints in place. In fact, it seems that the politicians of both parties are almost in competition to see who can expand these programs the most. This aspect of our spending is like the scene I described earlier in Thelma and Louise. It's heading for a cliff. It's picking up speed, and you're going over with it if we don't do something about it pretty soon. Have we reached the tipping point, the point of no return? Well, truthfully, I don't know. We are way down the road, and while I'm still optimistic, I know that we need to act, and we need to act now. This will require some very difficult, gut-wrenching cuts. But if we don't act, we will cross the tipping point, and I believe sometime soon. I think you'll see that from some of the slides that you're going to see. First, let me clarify that mandatory expenses can be reduced or even eliminated. It's just that it takes an active act or action of the Congress to do so. For example, you know, in the news right now are these young girls up in Gloucester, Mass. that all got pregnant together. I forget whether there's 15 or 17 or maybe they're under 17. But anyway, it's quite a few of them. They all got pregnant together. They did this on purpose. They thought it would be fun to raise their kids together. Now, I don't know this for sure, but I'm willing to bet that they've already been down to the welfare office applying for benefits. They weren't on your payroll last year, but they will be on your payroll from now on. It's mandatory, you see, that we give them these benefits. Unless Congress were to act and change the plan, they qualify for the benefits. Yes, it's true, they showed poor judgment, and yes, they did it to themselves, acted selfishly, if you will. They did it on purpose, but your Congress still says that they qualify for the benefits. And by the way, of course, you'll pay for it. Yes, I know it will take money out of your pocket, and it's money that you would prefer to spend on your own kids or maybe preparing for your old age, but that's the law. Congress says you've got to pay. Why would they do that? Well, it buys votes. Suppose in the next election up there in Gloucester, there's a young person from your age group that's running for Congress, and that person stands up and says, we've got to make cuts. It's difficult, but we've got to do it. Who do you think those girls are going to vote for if the other candidate is saying, no, it's all great, we're going to keep it just like it is? It buys votes. Jump over now to the other end of the age spectrum. When Social Security was introduced, the concept was that people would begin collecting benefits at age 65, and they would live another 5 to 7 years. That was the life expectancy at the time. Now we've added Medicare, which covers all their health needs, and people are routinely living an extra 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years in some cases. And our plans were never built around that, but the program is that they keep collecting as long as they live. They weren't designed to take care of every old person in the country for an extra 10 to 30 years, but that's where we are. And that's why the projections are so scary. The baby boomers, my group, are just getting ready to retire by the tens of thousands. They're healthy, and they're going to live a long, long time. Actually, I'm happy about that. No, there's no money in a government savings account somewhere to pay for this. So as those bills come due, the government either has to borrow more or dramatically increase your taxes. Now, kids, I certainly don't know if we have passed the tipping point yet. I'm really not trying to be overly dramatic about that, but I do believe that the world is showing signs that they're getting tired of loaning the U.S. money. They're getting tired of soaking up our debt. So should that happen, or rather I say when it happens, the only two scenarios are big overnight tax increases on you, or a bunch of folks getting a rude awakening one morning when their government checks don't show up. Or obviously it could be a combination of those two things. This slide that I'm showing you here now shows the projected growth in our GDP from 2007 through 2032. Notice how these three largest transfer programs dramatically outpace the estimated growth of our economy. Well, I could show you more slides from perotcharts.com that would further illustrate the problem, but really I think it best that you actually go there, if you haven't already, and see everything that they've prepared. This really is, kids, the big killer. If we can't rally enough folks to throw out the professional politicians and get in some of you young folks that will deal with this, we're going over the cliff with Thelma and Louise. Now let me explain one more thing. There's another way to look at government expenditures, and that's calling them maintenance, investment, or transfers. Maintenance is like repairing the roads and bridges that we already have. It's a very necessary part of government. Investment is spending on things that should make life better in the future. That could be health research, for example. Transfers are real simple. The government decides to take some of your money away and give it to someone else, and the recipients are only too happy to continue voting for them in a show of their favor. Well, I don't want you to get the wrong idea, and I don't think you will, but let me go ahead and say it. I'm really not a selfish person. I don't want any old folks eating dog food, and I don't want any pregnant young mothers living under bridges. You know that Mom and I are both very supportive of a number of charities in addition to paying a lot of taxes. But cuts must be made if we're to ensure that you have good opportunities in the future. Now, I promised an answer to one more question, and that is, who would I vote for if the election were today? So I'm going to do that for you next. Remember, I love you, and don't forget, call your mother.